Hello there. You are listening to the Light FM's Girl Talk podcast. My name is Carol.
This is Alicia.
Hey, I'm Tricia.
And we're so glad that you are here today. Now, this topic, should I issue a warning or should we just dive right in?
Oh, give him a little warning.
Little warning.
So if you are a control freak, you probably want to go on past this one. You probably just want to leave this one behind because we're going to be talking about how we're not in control.
I need to go then.
There goes Alicia. Wait.
So here's the thing. You know, I think this would be just an ordinary episode were we not in the midst of COVID-19, right? But now all of that, I said this the other day. I was journaling because y'all know I love to journal. I said everything before COVID-19 that I wrote in my journal, I wrote in bold during COVID-19 because it seems like everything is intensified, right?
Yes.
You know, all the insecurities, all the control issues, all the little imperfections. I don't know what it is about this season of life that intensify those, but it seems to be that is the case. And with control, I think it's gone to a whole nother level because, you know, come about March, all of our busy schedules were wiped absolutely clean. Mm-hmm. And, none of us were in control of even what we did.
Right.
We had to stay at home, right? Mm-hmm. We had to wear a mask. We had to do this. We had to do that. And if you're a control freak, which I will go out on a limb here saying, I think there's a little bit of control freak in all of us, even if you're like, control's not my struggle. Yeah. Okay, that's good for you. You probably don't talk that way, but good for you. You are listening to this podcast so you can help someone else, I guess. I don't know. But I think there's a little bit of control freak in us all. Don't y'all?
I think so. I mean, I am I like to control things. I like to know the path. I like to see, 10 steps, 20, 100 steps ahead.
Yeah.
I'm not good with not knowing where I'm going or what's happening. And I like to be able to make my own decisions.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And when that gets taken away, I find it's very stressful.
So I'm going to ask a personal question because that's what I do. Just how have you been dealing? How have you been working through COVID?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like, school for us was a big, we did have control over that decision, but during the summer, I didn't know what the options were going to be.
Right.
So that was zero control. And I just had to give it up and say, okay, well, I'm just not going to worry about it right now. I cannot let myself worry. I just have to let it go and we started praying for like school administrators and teachers and that they would prepare, government officials, that they would prepare the right plans.
Yeah.
And then based on that, we could make our own decision.
Right.
And, one of our children is going to school so that was me giving up control. I no longer control her day.
Right.
Yeah. Very, very hard. And I just had to go out on faith.
Yeah.
That she's going to be okay. They've got a lot of safety precautions in place, but that was a very hard decision, but it's best for her. It's what she needed.
Well, and I think that, even farther feeding that control piece is that you don't know how long that's going to last. Like I've heard rumors of already, schools closing down and going all virtual. And so that takes away that piece of control.
You have to be flexible right now.
Right. What about you, Tricia? Where do you land on the spectrum? You control freak, or you control little, or you?
No, I'm somewhere in between, but I
me.
certainly do like to have control. I like to plan too because it makes me feel. It helps me cope with anxiety. I have anxiety about the future, but when I think I can control it by making a plan, then it helps lower that anxiety, but it's not true. I mean, it's all a hoax.
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine said, part of what's making this so difficult and just challenging our mental health is that we don't know when it's going to end. It's like you're running a race that has no finish line. Mm-hmm. Every time you think you get to the finish line, they move the tape.
Right. I was going to say, or it keeps moving.
It keeps moving. Yeah. So that's part of what's going on, and we're all kind of going through it. But it is challenging, this thought process. In my mind, like if I can figure this out, if I can come up with a plan, I can make it better.
Right.
And it really isn't that way at all. So, just with the kids and with our own health, I went to something this weekend where it was the first time I was literally uncomfortable because people weren't wearing masks and they weren't really social distancing. Wonderful people. And I got up close to them because we were chatting, but I was wearing a mask and other people weren't. it's not about the mask,
right?
But in my mind, it was the first time that I felt really fearful. And I had to sit there and pray, Jesus, I need you right now. I can't, there's nothing I can do. I can't make this person put on a mask. I can't make my mask more effective. I don't even think the masks work all that well. I can't do anything but pray to you right now. And just, it was an acknowledgement that I am not in control, not even when I'm doing my part or trying to do the best that I know how.
Yeah, that's so true. And here's the paradox that's happening in my mind right now, because both of you, you like control and you like to plan. I don't.
You don't like control?
Well, not that I don't like control. I don't like to plan.
Okay.
So flying by the seat of your pants should be like my sweet spot, right? So I should be thriving in this time. So what is wrong with me? That's a whole nother episode. But, I mean,
but it's changing, though.
Oh, that's true.
Everything's changing. And so even if you are like that and you don't need to have that whole thing planned out, you kind of more take it day by day or whatever, tomorrow could completely change.
Yeah.
And everything is, I think that's what is extra frustrating right now. Yeah. I am just I don't have a finish line. I think maybe next summer we may be back to kind of normal, but you
Who knows?
You hear trickles of things that, well, that's not opening and this isn't, and I'm just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
Resign.
We're having to submit in a way that we're not comfortable doing. And I'm reminded when I used to work in New York.
Wait.
Oh, yeah.
Say that again.
Yeah, I know. I'm writing
to
this.
submit in a way that we're not used to.
In a way we're not used to or comfortable with. We're having to submit to God and circumstances, knowing that they come through God in a way that we're not comfortable with, a way I'm not comfortable with.
I'm writing that down. Alicia, you got that over there?
I am.
Okay.
Well, it's reminding me of when I used to work in New York City. I worked at this mental health facility with people that were it was called the Jewish Board of Family and Children Services, and they were Jewish people from Russia that had come to New York and were working in this agency. And I was so amazed by them on many levels. But one thing that they always said was, God willing, I would say to them, it's Friday afternoon, I'm leaving, to go away. And I'm going to say, have a great weekend. See you Monday. And they would say, God willing. And I would even say, could we meet next Tuesday? God willing. And
so they wouldn't commit to anything.
Yeah. And I don't know how much, it went from their mouth to their heart, but it's a really great way of looking at life.
Here in the South, we say, if the Lord's willing and the creek don't rise.
And the creek don't rise.
That's right.
That's
You've
right.
heard that.
But
put that one in your book too, Alicia.
But if you really get a hold of that, boy, it changes everything. And it really struck me a couple of times. I was like, well, that's crazy. But then I'm like, no, I'm the crazy one, and that's sane. Because it's so much truer.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Well, and it's like, is this time of not being in control trying to teach us something?
Yes.
Like, what are we learning during...
I've learned that the Lord is covering my mouth for a very good reason. And probably I should wear a mask at all times. Even after COVID-19 is a thing of the past. I probably should still be
wearing her mask.
Yeah. Why is she still wearing a mask? Because she should not say some things. That is why she is wearing a mask. No, but it is true. I was giggling about that the other day. But I think it's true that God has covered our mouths with masks so we can look each other in the eyes.
I mean, you have to look at people these days. You have to look. It's like, and listen. I think that's. I don't know if that's who I think it is, and pay attention.
That's true.
And you can tell. I mean, if you really take the time to look people in the eyes, you can tell a lot about where they're at.
Yes.
I don't think I really realized until this was going on and how much I depended on other facial expressions to really tell me that. But when you look somebody in the eyes, because, there's a point where it gets uncomfortable. You're looking at somebody in the eyes and they're like, they look down.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
Stop looking at me. But especially with my teenager, I can tell a lot about where she's at by looking at her eyes. And so the other day I was just kind of writing in my journal. I was like, is that maybe what God is getting us to understand and maybe slow down, because we read so many other social cues. Well, we can behave our way through a situation and fake it and do, all sorts of circus tricks to make people think we're one way when we're the other way. But when you look in somebody's eyes, that's really telling. With the old phrase, the eyes are the window to the soul, I think for me, to look people in the eyes again has been very telling.
Wow.
And it takes time, too. I mean, you just can't quickly glance in somebody's eyes and say, oh, she is, whatever she is. But when you take that time to really slow down be intentional, look them in the eyes. You can tell a lot about where people are at. At least I've learned that through this time.
That's really good. And it's reminding me, again, like we talk about this a lot, but it is just a constant need to learn of being present in the moment. And you can't be thinking about the next thing if you're really looking at someone and trying to gauge how they're doing from their eyes.
Yeah. So true. And here's the other thing that I have been struck with the last couple of weeks too. I was just telling y'all before we started, like the last week, my neck and shoulders have just every day I felt very like that, you know. And I was thinking about that the other day, and you probably know more about this than I do, but this time period in life has taught me to go ahead and acknowledge whatever it is I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Before this, I would try to either explain it away or act like it wasn't there, or all number of things. But I am learning about myself that if I'll just go ahead and acknowledge, you know what, today I feel, I'm not sure why, but my anxiety, I feel really anxious about what it is today. If I'll go ahead and even say it out loud to the Lord, I find that he will give me a verse, or he will, in my journaling time, kind of reveal what that is about, because I have to spend time thinking about, why am I really anxious? I mean, what is this going on? You know, and you feel your shoulders drop and you kind of take a deep breath and like, but I don't know why this time has been different for me, but really acknowledging, I was talking to a friend, she texted me and she was like, I don't want to know what our church thinks. I don't want to know what our pastor thinks. I don't want to know what you as a life group leader thinks. I just want to know what your opinion about this is. And we got to talking about several different things. And I said, here's the thing. We're all a work in progress. But what I'm learning is that if I'll just go ahead and say, okay, I'm anxious, instead of trying to act like it's not happening.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That, because in all of life, what has benefited? Who has benefited from hiding something?
Right.
Well, and just acknowledge it to yourself. This weekend, I was down. I was just like, we had a delightful little weekend, nothing big, relaxing, but I was stressed. I'm like, I feel stressed. I don't feel good. Like, I have no reason to say that I'm anxious or stressed or anything.
You couldn't point to something,
right.
for example.
Nothing.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, you know what? This whole thing is surrounding us, and we're in a change right now with going back to school and different things. And I'm like, I think that's affecting me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I couldn't point to it and say directly. But once I admitted that I did feel something, that it helped me recognize, okay, and it's okay to feel that way. It's okay that I don't have anything specific to point to. I think that there's a lot going on right now in the world, and it could be affecting us and we don't know it. Like for you, it's your shoulders are telling you.
Yeah.
For me, I just didn't feel good, and I just kind of felt down all weekend. Like, this is a bummer. But I think it's just this season.
And acknowledging it and being okay with it, so important. I heard a therapist talking about anxiety, because I'm always listening to that kind of thing because it helps me. And he said, if you can pinpoint what you're feeling, and he labeled emotions, and I'm not going to be able to remember them all, but it was like, you can really boil everything down to mad, glad, sad, scared, or happy, or something. I can't remember them. But when you find the emotion that you're feeling and it's affecting you globally, so it's affecting the way you're interacting with people, it's affecting the way you feel, it's affecting the choices that you make, so it's kind of coloring everything. He said, try to get to a quiet place, dig down, and try to figure out what is the core of it. And it's usually there's a core piece to it. And a lot of times it's out of control.
Yeah.
Because we want that control.
Well, and I think especially in spiritual circles, that sounds kind of mystic. I don't mean for it to sound like that, but in religious circles, we tend to say God is in control, and He is. He totally is. But I think what we do is we just say that to make everybody feel better, and then we just think we ought to move on from that. But if you acknowledge whatever it is you're feeling, then to say what piece of my faith is wounded where I don't believe correctly about who God is. You know, that it takes you deeper in that conversation with yourself, and the conversation with God is like, what is it? I mean, I know you're in control, and I know that you can do whatever you want to do, but there's something in my relationship with you, some weakness or some place where I don't believe like I should, that needs work. And I think that for me has like uncovered some areas that I needed to really just lay before the Lord and say, I know you are in control, but I'm having trouble believing you right here.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes I think you can believe that he's in control, but you may not like what's happening.
And
You know,
that's
you
the
can
truth.
still,
Right.
You don't have, you know.
And he's okay with that.
Sure.
You can tell him.
Yeah.
I really
Not that
do
it'll
believe
change
that.
anything, but yeah, and
Yeah.
he's in and he but ultimately when you trace all that back, that he is in control and he has your best interests at heart.
Mm-hmm.
It may not always look like it.
Mhm.
Right.
You know, that's why I go back to my life verse: lean not on your own understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs 3:5-6. You know, me understanding the situation,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a part of it. He does not say, I will explain everything to you so you will understand. No, part of it is me surrendering to the fact that I'm not going to understand it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we had this experience. So we were hanging out at our house just this past weekend, and our dog Greta got into this bowl that was left outside, and it had disgusting water, like yucky stuff that had been around for a while. And so she starts drinking it, right? And we're like, no, stop drinking the water. And we think it even had some chemicals in it because there was some stuff. So we're screaming and we're going to, and so my husband runs over, grabs her and pulls her away. And my youngest son goes, oh, poor Greta, she doesn't understand. She's so sad. And I was like, oh, that's like us, Daniel. Like, this is a teaching moment. Get ready, everybody. Grab the popcorn. Here it comes. Let's help me, Lord. But I said, that's like us, Daniel, because she doesn't know that water can hurt her. She doesn't know that that's got chemicals in it and it's bad for her. She just sees water. She wants to drink it, and she doesn't understand why we pull her away from that. It feels cruel at that moment, but it's so much better for her. And he was like,
that's great. I love that.
That's a great analogy. Good.
That doesn't come all that often, so I like to celebrate when it does.
That's right.
But listen to this quote that I read the other day. How we deal with uncertainty, I'm paraphrasing, says a lot about what we think. Are we letting Jesus lead us, or are we leaving Jesus behind us to carry our stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Wow.
I mean, he's there in
Drop
both
the mic,
scenarios. Well, I didn't come up with it. Somebody else did.
Good.
Yeah.
But he's there in both scenarios, but are we comfortable letting him lead? Are we just like asking him to come our way, and he's there helping us, but he's not we're not allowing him to lead the way.
Surrendering that.
Yeah.
Such good stuff. So I think we've come back around to acknowledge how you're feeling, and then kind of do some work with God. People who are like, the Christian life is so easy. I find the older I get, the harder it is. Yeah. Just because God keeps peeling back the layers and uncovering stuff. I'm like, doggone it, I thought I was done with that. No, you still got to deal with it. You still got work to do here. So uncovering, what it is really at the heart of that control issue. And is it something that you may have, believed about God that maybe isn't true? That's not the God of the Bible, that we've created in our own minds. And so getting down, doing that hard work, and then really, truly surrendering to his control. Because the truth of the matter is we're not in control. I hate to break it to you, but no matter what level of control you think you've had in your life, it was an illusion. And God is still in control. But here's the good news. He loves you, and he wants what's best for you. And we love you, too. And we would love to hear from you on this topic. If you've got thoughts or ideas, check in on the Girlfriends of the Girl Talk Facebook page. You're also more than welcome. In fact, please email us, because we love to get your emails at girltalk@thelightfm.org. And let us know what you think. We would love to hear from you, and we would love to pray for you through it all. And we'll see you next time. We gather right here around these microphones for the next Girl Talk podcast.